like to welcome everyone this evening to our regular scheduled May 22nd board meeting. Going to get a Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Cummings? Here. Ms. McGuire? Mr. Spencer?
Here.
Mr. Taser?
Here.
Mr. Sutton here. Mr. Wishbarth? Mr. Palmer?
Here. Next, the agenda or additions. I understand, Mr. Sutton, you have something you wanted to add?
Yes, I would like to add as other number 6, the Memorial Day Parade.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda with the addition?
Actually, Bill, I'd like to make a small addition as well.
Okay.
I'd like to add, under the subcommittee projects, I'd like to add a category for the Township websites, plural, EIC as well.
So that would be number 12.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So with that, can I get a motion to approve the agenda with the 2 additions?
So moved.
Support. Sutton.
We have a motion from Mr. Spencer, supported by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes. We have our agenda. Next will be the public comment. For this first one, we ask that you fill out a card and submit to our superintendent. Do we have any cards?
We have 3.
Okay.
The first one is Mary Reitler regarding the resolution for charitable gaming license.
Okay.
Good evening.
Name?
Just a moment. He's coming.
All right.
Can you get our time? Oh, there it is.
Yes, I'm on. My name is Mary Reitler. I'm from Oscoda, and I am representing the Downtown Beautification Committee tonight. The Downtown Beautification Committee has been around since about 2001, shortly after 9/11, and we are a nonprofit. We just a group of volunteers from the community, kind of a grassroots organization, and we exist solely on donations. So we had a very generous person make a swing for us to raffle off to make some money this summer, so we'll have something in our coffers for our fall decorations. And when I went to apply for the gaming license with the Michigan Gaming Control Commission, there's lots of things you have to do. And one of them is a resolution from the local governing body recognizing us as a nonprofit in the community. So I met with Mr. Palmer last week and told him that we needed this in order for us to fulfill the application process. So that's why it's before you tonight under your resolutions. It's strictly so we can get approved for a license, buy the tickets. We'll probably be selling them most of the summer and have our drawing maybe at the end of August, first part of September. Like I said, it's our only means of raising funds is through donations and raffles such as this, but this is our first time at the raffle. So that's why it's on your agenda, and I thank Mr. Palmer for arranging that for us, because if we'd had to wait, it's going to take probably 3 to 4 weeks. The wheels of justice, as you guys know, in the state don't roll real fast. So They told us to anticipate that, so if we can get it for Art on the Beach, that'd be great. So if there's any questions, that's why I wanted to present it to you now, so when you get to that part on your agenda, that's what it is. It's to approve the Downtown Beautification Committee as existing as a charitable group, nonprofit group in the community, because we're not associated with any entity at all, and we don't receive any funding from any entity. So, any questions? Wow, that was easy.
I guess
Bill?
not.
Okay.
Maybe if the question comes up when we get to that item on the agenda, we can check in with you.
Certainly.
Okay?
No problem.
Thank you. Next.
Kevin Kubik, and that's regarding superintendent contract.
Name's Kevin Kubik, I live in Oscoda. I was just curious on this contract, employment agreement, if this is the one that's going to be going into effect on September 16th of 2023, or is it in effect currently, or is it going to backdate until September 16th of 2022? If you guys could clarify that, I'm just curious, based on the wording of this here. And then on page 3 of it, on this contract regarding, I'm just curious why the members of the board are willing to pay someone a lump sum of $42,500 for not doing their job correctly. You guys could clarify that, because if you guys decide to let the township superintendent go without just cause, you're agreeing to a 6-month lump sum. At $85,000 a year, that's $7,083, or $7,083.33 a month. Times 6 would be $42,500. I'm just curious also, the original contract was 5 pages long, but this new one is now 7 pages long. And I'm impressed by how much wording in here is added regarding termination of the superintendent, and like why there's so much regarding being terminated or being let go. Does anybody know how much the insurance premiums are going to cost? Like if they decide to let the superintendent go, that you guys are agreeing to pay 6 months of the premiums of the insurance. I was just curious if anybody took the time to look into what that's going to cost. Under subsection 8 for township residency, in the original contract, the superintendent, she lives in Greenbush, and you guys have that worded in there that about her residency. But in this new contract, it just says that she's going to have to reside within the township within 90 days of the agreement being signed. I think it would make more sense to just have the original agreement that was in there. If not, I'm assuming you guys are going to probably have to change this unless she plans on moving into Oscoda Township anytime soon. And I find it interesting in this contract that you guys added a section in here that if the superintendent is terminated or let go within 6 months following the seating of a new board member or the elected new board member, that you guys are going to agree to pay her $63,750 in one lump sum payment if you guys agree to let her go. I mean, I don't think that makes sense at all whatsoever. It appears to me that that's possibly going to be some sort of hush money. If we decide to let you go, we'll pay you $63,750. Because if you're letting somebody go, what is the point of having an at-will clause in your contract which allows you to let somebody go, but instead you're going to agree to pay them $63,750. And the only reason why you'd be letting them go is if they're not doing their job correctly or not leading the township correctly. So I'm just confused as to why anybody in the right mind or any members of this township would agree to pay somebody that type of money for not doing the job correctly. Thank you.
Do you have another comment, Carter?
Yes, I have Kelly Brown, and that is regarding water loss.
New info?
Hello, Kelly Brown, Oscoda, Michigan. I do have one I want to add since Trustee Cummings added it, was the website. I didn't know before I filled out the form, but this is a compliment. So I had brought this up, I think, probably 4 months ago about some of the broken links. I had sent a very detailed screenshot print to both Trustee Spencer and Trustee Cummings, and they looked through it, recognized there was some functionality issues. So, you know, Tim's reached out to me a couple of times just to let me know about some changes he's made, which I thought was great. I didn't expect follow-up like months after. Well, he reached out to me last week and showed me some new functionality that he worked with the treasurer's office on. And I don't know, hopefully you've been to the website, but if you haven't been to the treasurer's tab, it's totally revamped. I guess Tim, Trustee Cummings, and Jamie and I think Jane, I don't know who all went into it, but they put together a list of needs, and it really is very simple now. All the payment options, the links that go to other sites. I mean, this is exactly what we needed to start making our website more functional, because I don't know if you guys have gotten a response back. I know it's not on the agenda, but where are we at with the Facebook page, like a static Facebook page, if anyone wants to chime in. But I thought the website would be really useful in the absence of that, and it's starting to really come together and make a difference on all the new options. That's not why I came up here, though. I came up here about the water loss. So I like the chart that's in there, if we can continue doing that, where it shows what the loss on the base is and then what the loss for the town is. Interestingly enough, February, with the broken out numbers, is 61%. March was 67%. And April was 53% for the town loss. What brought it up that I thought was interesting, if you haven't been aware, is that there's a town just south of us, a big town, that had a huge water problem. Not necessarily water loss is what it's known for, but their water loss was a huge issue back in 2016. They were on an average standard 65% water loss, and that place was the city of Flint. So I, as well as another member of the community, Brian Haley, had taken the time to investigate how Flint solved their water loss. And interestingly enough, they went through a lot of the same things, and I know we have a lot of these drawings and a new report and everything coming out, but I don't know if anyone's looked into this company. They're up in Canada called Ecologics. Ecologics. And they took Flint, they found 82 water leaks. They do this with like a sonar where they use your system and they bounce it off to find the different, I guess, sounds. I don't know how it works. I'm not an engineer. But I am good with numbers, and these numbers are too high, and they continue to be too high. And I have tracked them since 2019, and we are losing hundreds of thousands of dollars that we are paying for our water that you're not getting back in billable revenue. And it can be from a number of different things. One last thing I'll say, I reached out to a member of Eagle and just asked him if he knew from an average what the amounts are. And his statement to me was, recommendations for water loss improvement are generally left for drinking water systems exceeding 20% water loss, but are non-enforceable. So I just think it goes to show that there are options out there, and there are other cities with higher water loss than us, and we can solve this, but we have to put some focus on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
That was it?
Yep.
Okay. Next is the consent agenda. We have meeting minutes from May 8th, May 9th, and May 16th. And I believe Mr. Sutton sent out updated minutes for May 8th and May 9th to all the board members. Were there any questions or comments on the minutes? And then on the payment of bills, we have a total of $191,661.35. breaks down the prepaids, $172,504.78, and check run for May 16th of $19,156.57, and the C2R2 report. Did anyone, board, have any questions or comments on any of these? Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Support, Spencer.
We have a motion by Mr. Taser, support by Mr. Spencer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes. Motion passed. Next, we have our subcommittee reports. This is something that I wanted to put in place so that all the board and the public know what's going on with the various committees and subcommittees that all of us on the board here are involved with. I think it's a good way to keep everybody up to date on what's happening here. So I will start out with the Oscoda Wordsmith Airport Authority. That board, just so you understand, the Airport Authority, when the base was turned over from the Air Force, there were certain parts of the base that were turned over to an airport authority separate from the township. And they recently hired a new manager out there, Mr. Jamie Downs. He is actively pursuing economic development out on the base. His statement is their center of gravity is their concrete, because we have one of the largest airport runways in the entire country, and that comes into play when we're bringing in the large 747s and large planes that are coming in for repair and maintenance. Recently, they are in the process of moving the salvage yard, which if you go down Arrow Street, you see all the big planes just on the other side of the fence. They're moving that over to the old Ready Alert area. They had to put in a new road to accomplish that. And to make the road, they used dirt and gravel and broken asphalt and concrete that was, you might have seen a big pile when you drive by there, a big pile of dirt and asphalt. They have to save that because anything that's excavated from the base can't leave the confines of the base. It has to remain on base property. So they've used that soil and concrete and asphalt to create this new road. They did it all with their own people. So they saved about $152,000 by renting a bulldozer, dump truck, and having their own personnel do that work. That opens up about 9 acres plus taxiway for future development, for new businesses to come in, and opens up that taxiway for them to use for planes that are coming in for repair and that sort of thing. USA Jet is expanding out there. They've created a new division, USA Jet Power, because USA Jet was approved for certification for working on other jet engines other than just their own. So that means they can work on other airlines and companies' planes, and so we anticipate more planes coming into Oscoda for service and maintenance. He's working diligently to get all the buildings out there occupied. They've been approached by Car and Driver magazine. They want to have an event out there this summer to test about 30 cars, both EV and conventional cars in mid-August. It'll be a speed test. I think it'll be pretty interesting. They're going to try and set up an area so spectators can go out there and watch. This will be a 3-day event, and put on by car and driver, so I think it'll be pretty exciting to come out and watch that. So those are some of the things that are going on at the airport. It's a busy place. Mr. Downs is moving full throttle ahead to develop economic development out there. So next, we'll go to the Planning Commission. Mr. Taser.
Yeah, Planning Commission meeting was held on May 1st. We had two site plans that we were reviewing, case number 106-2023. This was a site plan for a new gas station and updated the convenience store on F41. The case was postponed pending future pre-development meetings to complete the site plan, which will come back in the next 3 months. So, and the next case was 107-2023. This was for a chicken coop on M65. That was approved. There has been discussion about revamping our poultry ordinance because our zoning director is allowed to approve $1 million homes but not chicken coops. So we think we're going to go back in there and look at amending that ordinance for administration approval. So that's about it.
Okay, thank you. The ZBA, Mr. Spencer.
We haven't had zoning board of appeals meeting yet since I was appointed,
Okay.
so no update for me on that one.
The LDFA, Ms. McGuire, that's the fund for the airport. I'm sure she'll have a report for us at a subsequent meeting. EIC, Mr. Sutton.
EIC did not have a meeting this month. The last thing we worked on was wrapping up the facade grants that came to the board.
Okay, thank you. 911 board, Mr. Spencer.
I haven't had a meeting with them yet since the last one, so probably our next meeting, we should have had one by then.
All right, and the HUSRA board, Ms. Klein.
All right, at the last HUSRA meeting, we had continued discussion regarding the township's request to redesignate the primary main on Lake Street to a secondary main that would be taken over by the township. That is definitely a hot topic. We had an update from Ms. Wynn regarding the conversion from radio telemetry on the lift stations to cellular telemetry. Right now they're in the middle of trying to figure out if they want to do an actual RFP or if they can actually just go to one particular business vendor that they would like to do. So Kath is checking into that. They just did some investments and they are working on a draft master lease with T-Mobile, who would like to co-locate with AT&T on the industrial tower and the booster station water tower. So better cell coverage. I believe T-Mobile and Verizon are together, so should be good news for everybody because I believe they're almost to a good agreement there. So.
And what is the holdup on redesignated that line on Lake Street?
They're trying to figure out what exactly the benefit would be for HUSRA. There are some members of the HUSRA board that don't want to redesignate, but we have in the past, I believe it was 2015 or 16, when they redesignated the water main over on Bissonnette so we could do the Rose Lane area. Mm-hmm. That was redesignated as a secondary for the township. And just right now, there's some other things at work, which I can report on later when I have a more definite. I just would rather we can report on that in the next meeting. So.
Okay, thank you.
But hopefully that'll be happening soon.
Okay, thank you. Next is the EIT, and That's the bike path. That progress is coming along. I think Mr. Freeman will have more to talk about in his report on that. But last time I drove out to take a look at it, it's coming along quite nicely. The RAB representative, Mr. Cummings.
Yes, so our last RAB meeting was last Wednesday, and I understand that there was a good turnout online. We had a few people there in the audience, and a number of people from are you okay? A number of people representing the Department of Defense getting interviews with folks and listening to the meeting. There are 3 community RAB openings that were being filled, and 3 people put their names in to be candidates to fill those positions, of which Mr. Sutton here is one of them. And there will be a future vote on that at the future RAB meeting. So we'll be listening and getting the Air Force's approval of those nominees. There was a discussion of all of the current open action items, of which there's too many to go into now. Slip lining that we've talked about up and down Mission Road. That was discussed, making progress. One in particular that's been a long-standing thorn in our side, which is the stormwater sewer payments by the Air Force. The Air Force made it very clear that they felt as though the ordinance that they had originally requested that we create and set up for them suddenly became discriminatory to them, and that this is the reason why they haven't been paying all this time. So we have some more work to do. I would say that the community in this particular RAB meeting, not that it's ever been short of understanding of its tenacity to hold the Air Force accountable. This particular meeting was nothing short of any of those prior meetings that we as a township and the community RAB, I think, represented this township and the area and the other areas that are impacted, like Greenbush, Oscoda. It represented everyone very well. And the comments from the public were spot on point, and it's well worth taking time to go and hear that video that was recorded. The audio on that was really quite good, and I think you'll find that the information is very interesting. That was all I had to say on that. Yeah.
And I would just like to add
Please,
that
I know you had a good monologue that got cut off there on the during the RAB. So yeah, take over.
Just so everybody on the board knows,
Yeah.
I contacted our attorney on Thursday after the meeting to have her look at the ordinance that we wrote. Well, we had Rowe Engineering put together an ordinance for stormwater usage.
Yes.
And come up with a reasonable rate. And that was requested of us by the Air Force. And so now they're saying that ordinance that we wrote for them is discriminatory against them, since they're the only one using the storm sewer. And it's ludicrous to me to think that the Air Force can just come in, build a plant, hook up to our storm sewer, and then say, well, we're not going to pay anything for using it. We're just going to use it. And our customers for our sewer and water, if they don't pay their bill, they get shut off. So what I ask our attorney to do is look at the ordinance and see if it somehow is discriminatory, and to see if there's, quite frankly, any legal action we can take towards the Air Force. I will also say that I've been in contact with the University of Michigan Law School. The fellow there that's in charge of that is a fellow named Odeh Salim. He has had some of his second and third year law students working on the sovereign immunity clause, which says that states and local governments can't sue the federal government. He believes we can under certain circumstances, so they are willing to help us along with our attorneys in that endeavor if if it comes to that. I would hope that the Air Force will come to their senses and pay, because this is a project that's going to be going on for, they're going to be using the storm sewer for 30 or 40 years.
Yep.
This cleanup of the base, it's been going on for 13 years just in identifying data for the PFAS. They've actually been working on cleanup on the base for over 30 years with the VOC chemicals and other things, benzene and so on and so forth. The PFAS cleanup, this will be going on for a long time, and which means they'll be using our storm sewer for a long time. And my concern is that in 20 or 30 years from now, they run approximately 1.4 million gallons of water a day through that one storms line from the central plant over here at the corner of Arrow and Skeel. And my concern is that somehow it's going to get washed out. That storm sewer's been in the ground for over 100 years. It was put in by the Air Force when they built the base. And I don't want the township to be on the hook for having to replace or repair that storm sewer. In the beginning, we offered the Air Force, we said, we will turn it over to you. We'll deed it over to you and you can be responsible for it. Then you won't have to pay anything. It'll be yours. And if there's damage or concerns, you take care of it. They absolutely refused, would not even consider that possibility. So I think it's time that we start looking at some possible legal action towards the airport. A lot of people say, well, you don't want them to stop doing the cleanup that they're doing. But you have to remember, they're required by federal law to clean this up under the Clean Water Act and CERCLA. Unfortunately, neither of those federal statutes have a time frame that says how soon they have to have it done. So, but I think it's unconscionable that they can just come in and tap into our storm sewer and use it for the next 30 or 40 or 50 years and not have to pay anything for that use. Right. That money is so that we have money to maintain the system if we need it, and invariably we're going to need it at some point. So, thank you, Mr. Cummings.
It's worth reminding the public that they did make 3 payments.
They did. When they first started the central plant in 2018, they actually came in and paid the first one with a credit card so that they could get the plant started up, and then he made a couple of more months payments, and then in 2019 when the Mission Street plant started up, we sent them a bill for that, and they said, oh, we're not going to pay that, and we're not going to pay the other one either anymore. And they said the reason they weren't paying for the Mission Street was because we'd never billed them for using it before, and they've been using it for the last 30 years. So my response was, well, then you owe us 30 years worth of payments on that. They didn't agree, obviously. So thank you for that, Rab.
I've got a comment.
Okay.
As long as we're on that discussion about the Air Force using it. If they're the only ones using that storm drain and nobody else is using it, why would we need it? Why don't we just go over there and crunch it up and say, here, it's done. Now nobody can use it. That's what Aaron said.
Yeah, our engineers have said we don't really need a storm sewer with the sandy soil and what we have here in Oscoda. We don't need a storm sewer. The Air Force put it in because, money's no object to the Air Force. When they're putting in a base, they just put everything in. But maybe Mr. Freeman in his report can mention that briefly. But they did a study and said, we really don't need the storm sewer here. So anyway, that's where we're at.
Well, if we're going to pursue lawsuits, I would just talk about alternatives. And I think that would be one of them.
Sure. Next is Mr. Freeman and the engineering report.
Good evening, everyone. Try to make this as brief tonight as possible. Good news, we did get indication at the end of last week that either today or tomorrow we should be receiving the first round of 150 meter pit meters from Ferguson. With those, or the actual pit meter boxes, we've had the pit meters. With that in place, we're working with the contractors, both Elmer's and Caterman, to work with them on when their startup schedule will be. Elmer's is back out placing mainline. Caterman only has services basically to do, and we'll have an updated schedule from them here shortly, and we'll be recontacting all the property owners to start that process of coordinating with them individually on their hookups. So progress there, and we'll be able to get hopefully phase 3 and phase 5 wrapped up here in the next within the next couple of months. Phase 6, the area out in the Colbath area, and then the township-wide service line project. Now that we're starting to get movement on the supplies, those projects, the phase 6 project, will more likely than not be out for advertising in June with a bid in early May or early July, and then the township-wide service line project advertising in July with a bid in early August, so that we can get both of those projects underway yet this fall. Probably won't be able to wrap them up this year, but early next year we should be able to wrap those up, and that would complete the grant funding for the C2R2, which we have to have that spent by the end of the fiscal year, September of 2026, so we'll be well ahead of that schedule on that. Sanitary sewer system improvements, there's a pay request later in the agenda. We're wrapping that project up. I think so we're doing punch list items, and we also did get the odor control option approved by Eagle. We're getting the permitting and stuff in place for that, for components to be added to, I believe it's pump station 25 and then also pump station 4, which we kind of identified as the areas where that odor was originating from. So hopefully that will go a long ways into eliminating that. The DWRF or CWSRF project plan was completed and submitted to Eagle by the 1st of May. Later in tonight's meeting is the project plan adoption resolution by the board. At that time, if you have any questions, Mr. Ryan Bear is here tonight for Rowe to answer any of those questions during that resolution approval process. That application is due June 1st, and that will basically then have another line of sewer projects in for review by Eagle, and then another round of water projects. And the key to these two is there is going to be a principal forgiveness component, so a grant, if you want to call it that, and we'll see what comes out of the review of those. The Phase 3 trail project is progressing very well. As Mr. Palmer alluded to, contractor has all of the base aggregate down, basically from the point of beginning to point of ending. He has a few areas that he's focusing on. He's got the area at the entrance of the Old Orchard Campground. He's got some concrete work to do there. He's got concrete work the entire length of the trail for the benches, the trash receptacles and such. And then he's got some work in the dam store area, Ray Road, in that area there, the village there. We have a couple of areas that we're looking at for some minor alterations to the trail to help with traffic, vehicle traffic. One is the foot site with the summer boating season and boat trailers, and trying to prevent boats and cars and that parking on the trail. So we actually have a meeting out there tomorrow morning on that. Other miscellaneous items, as part of the CWSRF, Dave Richmond mentioned at the last meeting, or at the meeting at the end of April, is we have incorporated into that project plan some treatment components for continuing PFAS contamination coming from existing township sites. Very economical, so that we're not adding to the PFAS contamination out at the lagoon site. So that's in the works as far as that, if that gets approved. We also had a very good meeting with Michigan Rural Water last Thursday out at the DPW, Catherine Wynn and myself. Michigan Rural Water is a kind of a pseudo public entity, industry, and municipal organization that helps communities with low-cost investigations and treatment. They do smoke testing on sewers to find sumps as far as coming from houses, but another component that they do is they also do water loss investigations. So we have met with Lance Chevron, and he is putting together a proposal, ballpark $500 a day. They would look at the prioritized areas within the water system that we want them to look at, and then we're going to, his proposal coming back is how many feet of water main he can accomplish in a day under that $500 cost, and then we can kind of prorate that and then come back with a proposal. They have all of the industry-wide technical capabilities as far as water loss investigations, and then they also, another component is they provide the municipality the wherewithal and the guidance to continue to monitor water loss moving into the future. Low-cost equipment, some GPS locators and such, so that as the system is repaired, as the system is found to have a leak, that can all be logged into a GIS system and moving forward, but at a very low cost to the municipality. So we're hopefully having a proposal back from him for the next meeting and taking a sample of that and seeing what we can get out of that, of their investigation. So
I just wanted to mention, I've discovered a new water loss source.
yes.
It was brought to me by the utility billing, asked me if I'd talk to my neighbor, which I had, and I have a key to their house. They don't live up there full time. She said, well, they haven't registered any water use. And I said, well, they turn it off in the winter and just recently turned it back on. And she said, no, they didn't record any water use all last summer. So I made an appointment and opened the house so that F&V could come out and check the meter, and sure enough, the meter is not recording any water flowing through it. It was a meter that was 2 years old. It had just been replaced. So I mentioned that to Catherine, and perhaps some of these new meters, these are the new meters that are the radio read.
Yeah.
That we paid a lot of money just recently to have put in. So if we have people that, are using water and it's not being billed, well, that's a significant water loss. It has nothing to do with water leaking into the ground or anything else. It's just we're not recording it, and so it's not being paid for. And that, there's a problem. I don't know how you solve that, but
Is there something in the BSNA, does BSNA track the water stuff, or is it a separate software?
It's separate.
So
I think the utility building uses that for.
It's tied to it, isn't it?
Well, it is, but it isn't. But the Neptune system that the meters, their Neptune meters, they actually can track usage by the hour. So.
Well, they're supposed to, but apparently it didn't.
Well, Kath,
Yeah.
I spoke with Ms. Wynn about this, and what they're finding is that some of those meters were defective.
No kidding.
So that is not helping.
Does the
But they're,
manufacturer have a percentage of defective shipped product that they can give us, so we have an idea?
I can ask Kath and have that
My other
information.
question is there a way that we can, when you see that this, like my house, we spend $100 a month on water. If it gets to all of a sudden now, last month it was $100 and this month it's zero, isn't that through some kind of flag anywhere?
Yes, but sometimes we have a lot of seasonal people, and the utility billing clerk does do a zero usage report every month, but it's hard to figure out in some places where it's a seasonal resident versus someone whose meter isn't reading. But she is heavily checking into that right now. Since the one they found, Mr. Palmer's neighbor, they're definitely, that's how they're finding these. So she's a bulldog. Don't worry, she'll find them.
How many of those zero water usage on that report? What's the average number of accounts on there with zero usage?
I would have to look.
It changes seasonally, remember?
True, but there should be some kind of baseline that we can look at. So
Yeah.
in the middle of summer, in the middle of winter, and then you're going to get. You were talking about this very cool company coming in to show us some nifty stuff on finding water loss, and they're going to provide us a proposal.
They're going to provide us a proposal, like I said, ballpark based on $500 a day, how many feet of water main they can accomplish in that. Catherine and I worked at kind of the prioritize the areas within the township that we want them to start in, and then we'll have a proposal for, I'll say ballpark right now, the north end from Van Etten Lake to Lake Huron, north of the F41 intersection, kind of that area focusing on first, because that's where the majority of residential customers are sitting as far as, I mean, older residential customers. And so we're going to look at that area first, get a proposal from them, bring that back, and then based on what they find versus what then we can fix as far as any leaks that are found, then we can compare the monthly report and how much of much progress we're making on reducing that water loss.
Are we going to get proposals from any other companies so that we can?
Well, this is like I said, it's a pseudo. It's not like they're not in it for profit. They're a pseudo kind of government agency. So your other private companies and such are the ones that are. I mean, I'm going to throw out. Could be $60,000, $80,000 price tags as far as coming in. We'll do some comparison with those. But this should be very much more economical for the township. And again, it's basically taxpayer incentive, municipal group is involved, industry is involved, and then the technical capabilities. So Michigan Rural Water has been around for years. It's part of APWA and that. So.
And they're just using that little. It's not sonar. They're just putting the ear cup to the ground so they can hear.
No, they do also have sonar capabilities and such. So, yes.
And they're going to use both of those features.
They're going to look at both of those as far as what the unique situation. Not unique. It's not unique just to Oscoda, but with your sandy soil conditions here, they're going to look at two or three different technologies to try to pick up what will show the most. Recording back as far as whether it's ultrasound or it's ultrasonic and that, or also they can get it off from turning the valves as far as shutting a valve down and seeing if water continues to flow in that area and all that type of stuff. So they'll be looking at hydrants, valves, main line, and then also the curb stops and the residential connection points. They're not going to be able to go on private property to determine what might be happening on service leads from the curb stops up to the homes, but we'll be able to identify anything up on the township's responsibility side.
Do they have like a track record of what they've found in the communities?
Yes. That'll be part of their proposal coming back as far as the communities that they've worked with and what they found and the cost effectiveness of it.
That's good.
I have a question also. Ms. Brown talked about Flint, Michigan and their water issues and this Ecologic technology company. But my question is, Rowe Engineering's home base is in Flint, and I believe that you were involved in the water situation there in Flint. Is there anything that Rowe Engineering could add to that talk? Are they the ones that were involved in the water loss situation there in Flint?
No, it was, I mean, Roe was in Flint. I was actually, for several years, I was acting city engineer for Flint prior to the whole water situation. They've had a water loss situation for years, buying water from the Great Lakes Water Authority, the incoming meter, very similar to HRSA as far as what was coming in, what was going out, what was getting billed. They went through a very similar process that we've been talking about here, sorting out the billing side, making sure that everybody that was getting water was getting billed properly, making sure they're also underway right now. I think they might be pretty much wrapped up with it, a whole new change out in meters. Also meter reading as far as changing that out. But then you got to remember too is they receive millions and millions of dollars from the state to dig into all of this different technology. And some of that technology that they used was, again, cutting edge technology, but also very expensive. And based on the size of the community and that, the percentage of water loss that they were able to reduce, you know, they were in the 60% range. I think they might have gotten it down to the 40% range. But there was millions of dollars spent in doing that. So it's, again, all effective and that, but they did bring in, the state brought in an outside, those companies and basically furnished the revenue to pay for it to try to identify where there's
So
water
my,
losses.
my main focus of that question, I guess, would be understanding that you were a part of that and you knew that process that was happening in Flint, and you were bringing that here to Oscoda to help us through without that $1 million price tag?
Correct.
Okay. That's what
Because I don't believe the state is sending you that kind of money, so.
Well, then I guess we're not throwing a big enough fit then, huh?
I just wanted, I appreciate your involvement, knowing this water issue,
Yeah.
that you have been involved in that Flint.
Yes.
And
And it's serious, and like I said, it's understanding the system first. You know, as Mr. Cummings, I think, brought up a meeting or two ago, what it would cost to replace the entire system. You could replace the entire system and you would still have water loss. Just because, again, these joints and these mechanical fittings and stuff are not 100% watertight, so.
the only other thing I would ask is, out of these new meters, how many of those meters did we purchase? I mean, there must have been quite a few of them. I hate to see the 2 years old and failures on them. I mean, hope there's a warranty.
Everything that we're installing under the current water main projects are tested and all of that before they're put into service. And I think part of it is because they've had some problems in the past. So I think then Catherine and staff is going to start going back and you know, it takes time to go back and check all of these. And again, it's easier now because our meters, we're putting in meter pits out at the side of the road. But still, there is still a majority of meters in the township that are inside the building, so they've got to get access to the meters and through the property owners and such. So again, we talked about that last week, and she is going to start looking at a procedure as far as going back and checking on, spot checking these along with the billing department to see, you know, what makes sense as far as what should be recording water usage and what would be not recording due to seasonal. So.
Thank you.
We met with
About the bike path? Did you want to ask about the bike path?
I talked to him before.
Okay, sorry.
We met with WTA on the facilities a couple weeks ago, and they will be making a presentation as far as the project progress to the Planning and Zoning Committee on at the June 5th meeting. Other than that, we're busy chasing down grant applications. We have Sparks, the next round of Spark grant is out there that's due 26th of June. We have a MEDC 2.0 RAP application that's due the end of June. We're looking into that. We're still sorting out, there's some training sessions coming up with the EPA Community Grant Program that the Senator Peters money is coming through. So we've got a couple training sessions coming up on that as far as how to apply or get the project descriptions in and get that money flowing for water infrastructure there also. So that essentially is my report.
Rick, real quick, do you know, are we waiting for any more back order products for any of our projects, or those meters, was that the last?
That 150 that we're getting in are last fall's projects, phase 4 or phase 3 and 5.
Okay.
Phase 6, which is coming up, and then the water service contract, that's another 300. And those should be coming in about that September 1st deadline.
Okay.
So by advertising and bidding phase 6, which they've got main line to get into the ground before they would get to services, the timing in June, start up into July, would mean that they'd be ready for those meters when they were delivered in hopefully the 1st of September. The water service contract, which is strictly just water services, getting that more in line with startup right around the 1st of September. But we're waiting on 300.
Are we seeing less delays on that now? It's kind of
No guarantees.
depends on the product.
And like I said, we were told possibly the middle of June on these, and then we got word last week that they were going to be delivered today or tomorrow.
Nice.
I think it's starting to improve, but
Just don't want to be waiting on parts when
correct.
we have grants waiting.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Next, Mrs. Taser, the Senior Building Authority.
Hello, Devin Tasher. I'm one of the Oscoda representatives for the Senior Building Authority with Jeff Sen. We are a small ancillary board that only really looks at the building that the senior center is in. Thank you very much for acknowledging us. We don't get acknowledged very often and haven't in the past. We appreciate that. But you have my notes. It's pretty basic. We just try to make the building as nice and as safe for our seniors in the area as we possibly can, as cheaply as we can. With my notes, the only real projects we have going right now is we are taking bids to put in a generator to make our building is evidently an emergency shelter, and if any seniors in the area find themselves without power for like hours, if not days, we need to be an emergency center for them to stay. And so we're trying to get a generator for that. So that's out for bid, and we're also taking bids for the striping on our parking lot at this point in time. So, but as I said, we are a small board. We only deal with the senior center building, not the seniors themselves, none of their activities, just the building. Unfortunately, I have submitted my resignation for this committee. I felt with my husband taking the trustee position, it was my responsibility to avoid any possible conflict of interest raised in any public forum out there. Although we are an ancillary board and it has really nothing to do with that, I've been told that it wouldn't be a conflict of interest, but I would just as soon step down. That does, however, put the township in a hardship where we need 4 representatives on this board to represent Oscoda's interests as far as that building goes. Oscoda pays for 75% thereabouts of the repairs on that building. The building's over 50 years old, so it's going to be needing some substantial repairs coming up, and to do that in a responsible way, we need representatives from Oscoda to represent our township and our taxpayers in this board. So we will need 3 regular board members and an alternate, which Bill Palmer will be looking for shortly. And we'd appreciate anybody stepping up out there in TV land. Come on up, step up. This is one way you can get involved in your community. It doesn't take a lot of time. We meet maybe 2, 3, maybe 4 maximum times a year. We get invited to the senior Christmas party, which is pretty fun. And yeah, the township needs your help. So if you ever wanted to help the township, this is your opportunity. That's pretty much it.
Okay. I was going through the summary of the payments for last year, and I totaled up, and the Oscoda Township paid roughly $34,000. DeSable Township paid $5,120. There were also some payments to DeSable Township. I wasn't sure what those are for.
Me
The
neither.
amount of $1,667. But it's a 5-person board, and Oscoda Township, it's because of the amount of money we put into it and the size of our township, we get to have 3 members on that board.
Yes.
Right now, Mrs. Taser has graciously agreed to stay on until we can find a replacement.
Yes, I have. Yeah, I've been on the
and-
board for 4 or 5 years now.
And we appreciate that, and we will be advertising and looking for a couple of people to fill those positions.
I believe that the board members are paid for the meetings on this specific board as well, isn't that
Yes.
correct?
Pardon?
Don't the board members on this board get paid for showing up to the meetings?
Yeah, the stipend, the normal stipend of.
Well, some boards have it and most boards don't. This one
Yeah.
does.
Yes,
I
this
don't
one
remember
does.
what it is, but.
Yeah, we get paid a $50 stipend per meeting.
Yeah, $50. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's good.
Yeah, thanks. And that would be me.
Next would be the website.
Right.
Last but certainly
All
not
right, so I'll
least.
speak on this one and say that on the subject of the township website, Jeremy and I were tasked with reviewing the township website to see what was going wrong with it. The primary complaints were usability, being able to find information. Once you found it, sometimes the information was hard to understand. There were, quite honestly, a multitude of problems with the website that it took people using it to uncover. And I really appreciate Ms. Brown being one of the folks who actually brought this to my attention. And so Jeremy and I got together and we did a big review of what we saw as the most major concerns. Some of them were just a large number of minor concerns that added up to a major issue regarding grammar and punctuation and things of that nature. And then it took us about 2 months to get the administrative privileges to actually start to make changes in the website. And then, as Ms. Brown mentioned, I had a meeting with the treasurer about a month and a half ago or so. I don't remember the exact date. And we had a great work session. I think we were done in under about an hour, to say. And we reviewed the current content and identified new information that needed to be added that had never been there before in the history of the township. And really, all that was just a discussion. And I took those notes away and worked on how to formulate content or organize it in a way that would make it easier to look at easier to understand. So there were a number of meetings I had with Jeremy as we progressed through this, and it resulted in the changes that are there today. They've been actually out there in the public, as it were, for a couple weeks, but I needed to get them out there in order for the Treasurer's Office to lay their hands on them and see if they functioned the way that we all kind of envisioned that it would be. But Jamie was very happy. I'll let her speak on, give her her sentiment, when she's back in the next meeting. But she was very happy. The deputy was very happy with what we did. And I would say that one of the points that I was particularly proud of was cleaning up the subject of how our treasurer's office accepts payments. It actually was never clear to me, after all these years on the board and being a resident here since 2008, the different ways you can pay for different kinds of taxes and fees. It's actually quite an interesting combination of what is available depending on what you're trying to pay. And so what I did is I sat down and read some of what had been written, by the Treasurer's Office, which after a while you start to go mind numb on it, going, what are my choices? And I put together a table, a chart, in this one particular page called Payment Options. And, it is really so much easier to look at. A table, a chart is so much easier to look at than paragraph on paragraph on paragraph. After a while, you're just too many words. It starts to become really clear that you actually can pay things so many different ways. We've always talked about this, and Jamie's always mentioned how many options we have, but I really don't believe that it's been as clear how customer-friendly we have been and that we currently are until we were able to put this together. One of the things that I think is kind of cool is that you can actually, if you're going to come to our website from your cell phone or from a mobile-enabled tablet, you can actually even click on some of the phone numbers on the website and they will auto-dial for you and take you straight to that particular payment facility or whatever. It's really quite nice. It's friendly, which is what I wanted. And I just wanted to say thank you to my colleague here, because we really worked hard to help make this an improvement for everybody. There are also other changes that we put into the website at the request of the clerk's office. One in particular was the clarification of this term called utility billing. It is, as I look out into the room today, I see exactly the reason why we have the word utility billing, because a large number of us in this room remember when you could take your utility bills to the post office or to other stores and get them paid. And that's been a long time ago, and that doesn't exist anymore. And so utility billing is, a nice, easy term for, a shorter word or shorter name, but really what we are is water and sewer. And so at the request of the clerk's office, who is running into this exact problem, believe it or not, people trying to pay other utility bills that like DTE and Consumer Power, that we actually, pardon? Oh, I thought I heard you say something. That we clarified it and started to now call it water and sewer. I don't think that's necessarily an official point. We're still, the office at the Township Hall is still utility billing, but just so that people can start to understand, we can kind of evangelize this new concept that it's just water and sewer. Anyway, a lot of other little things that we fixed to make it easier and more accessible. And really, honestly, I'm looking forward to the next big wave, which is going to be the clerk's office. I met with Josh at the beginning of the month, and we had our work session similar to the one that we did with Jamie, and I don't have as much information yet because they have so much more that they want to do with this, with their pages. And so I'm waiting for the clerk's office to get me that information, that content, so we can start to make those changes. So the good news is that all of that is in play. And so it will be a bit of a continuing saga. I apologize, Ms. Brown, that's going to continue here for a bit, but the good news is it is making progress. And then on the last point here is the EIC website, and to that I have to look to Jeremy and Tammy to find out what we have on that as an update.
There really isn't much of an update yet. We're still waiting on the, we had to send some information to the attorney to find out what to ensure that the content that we paid for is ours before we go start to talk to those folks at, what's the name of the
Digital
company?
55.
Digital 55, yes. So right now, I think that have we gotten any information back from the attorney yet?
I have not received anything from her yet.
I think it was supposed to be like by Wednesday this week or something like that. So I didn't think we were going to make this meeting, but basically, in my opinion, I think that we should go after Digital 55 and force them to give us the content we paid for. That was our tax money. We paid for that stuff. You're going to give it to us or we're going to bury it. That's where I'm at. So, but we're going to try and be nice about it. We're going to try and get them to give it to us because they know it's supposed to be ours, but the attorney is going to review the information for the contracts that we did have with Digital 55 in the past and make sure that that we have a leg to stand on and that they don't. And then we'll take it from there. So, well, there will be updates forthcoming.
Okay.
Yeah, oh, I'm on the warpath. I am unhappy with Digital 55.
As we should be.
Yes.
All done. Thanks, Bill.
All right, well, thanks everyone for your committee reports. Next is the superintendent's report.
Okay, we're going to start off with some row invoices. Your packet contains 6 invoices, and they are going to require some township board approval.
Okay.
Start at the top.
First one is invoice 108-265. This is relating to Phase 3 water main project. Any questions, concerns? Do I have a motion?
I move that we pay row invoice number 108-265 in the amount of $465 even from C2R2 after reimbursement of funds is available.
Support, Spencer.
We have a motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Mr. Spencer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Invoice 108-261. This is, again, relates to Phase 5, the water main project. Any questions, concerns?
It's a 2022 though in this case. Is that the difference? It's a year from a year ago?
This was, yeah, this was,
Yeah. I think that's the difference. It's not, it's the same, but it's the same topic of water system improvements, but it's from last year.
Is this a missed invoice or?
I don't know.
Yeah, this is the Phase 5 water main, which was a 2022 project.
Oh,
This is the one that we're now finishing up with the meter bids and all that stuff coming in.
Got it.
gotcha.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I would make a motion to approve payment for invoice 108-261, water system improvements for $187.50 from C2R2 after the reimbursement is available.
Support Cummings.
we have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is invoice 108-282. This is for as-needed services. I believe the surveying out at Old Orchard Park is part of this. Any questions, concerns? I will make a motion to approve paying row invoice 108-282 in the amount of $775 for as-needed services to be paid from Fund 101-299-821.00.
Support Sutton?
A motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton? Yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is invoice 108-298. This is work on the Phase 3 bike path of the IET. Any questions, concerns? Do I have a motion?
Would make a motion to approve the payment of invoice 108-298 for the Oscoda Exploration Trail in the amount of $36,132.50 to be paid from 101-751-880-572.
Support Cummings.
Just one question on this. We have a number of different grants. Once we make this payment, I just want to make sure I understand and the audience understands that we make the payment from this fund, but then we collect the money from the granting agencies.
Yes, that is correct. You've got quite a different, you got a different mix of grants. Some are reimbursable, so similar to the water and sewer, we would submit the invoices and get reimbursed. Other ones, we've received, Township received the grant money, and Tammy is paying that out of those as they come in. So
Okay.
it's a mix of those, and we're tracking those all individually.
Right, okay, thank you. I wanted to clarify that point, that we do have a number of grants that we're collecting money on for this bike.
Everything is covered. There's no uncovered expense between the MDOT grant, DNR grant, and the other various grants.
Right. We have a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is invoice 108-303. This has to do with the mapping at Old Orchard Park. Do I have a motion?
I'd move to approve invoice number 108,303 for the Old Orchard Campground map in the amount of $5,109 even, to be paid from account 218-000-984.000.
Support, Sutton?
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is invoice 108-334. This has to do with the SRF application for the CWSRF account. Any questions, concerns? Is there a motion?
I'd make a motion to approve payment of invoice 108-334 for Oscoda Township 2024 SRF applications in the amount of $18,222.96 to be paid from CWSRF after reimbursement as available.
Support, Spencer.
I have a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Spencer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next.
All right, your packet contains the 15th pay request and the pump station replacement project in the amount of $36,294.38, leaving a total of $145,231.58 remaining for this project. I would ask that the board consider approving the 15th pay request from RCL Construction in the amount of $36,294.38 to be paid from CWSRF checking after reimbursement is requested and deposited into the township's account.
Okay, questions, concerns? This is the 15th payment on this project, so we're whittling it down, hopefully to have completed, hopefully by the end of summer, hopefully. Questions, concerns? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the 15th pay request from RCL Construction in the amount of $36,294.38 to be paid from the CWSRF checking after reimbursement is requested and deposited into the township's account.
I'll support that. Palmer? Motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Palmer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the CPA engagement letter.
Right, your packet contains an engagement letter from Graysick & Graysick for CPA services. Services will include month-end adjustments, preparation of various reconciliations, and training for both the clerk and the treasurer. Now, Mr. Sutton and I met with Lisa on May 15th. We had a very good discussion about what we would be requesting of her. She was more than willing and kind of excited about providing some training, especially for Mr. Sutton. And I believe she would be a very good fit for what we need to help both the clerk and the treasurer.
What's the cost on this? I didn't see any dollar signs in there.
She's ranging from $125 to $150 an hour. She is also very willing to do Zoom. She offered, to do the training with Josh and then start having him do things himself and having her review before he does them. She just, and she's worked previously with Stevenson before they split. So she has an idea of exactly how large the township is and what kind of funds we have and that kind of thing.
Did she give you a ballpark on the number of hours she thinks that it's going to be required?
I believe it's just, until Josh is ready, I can't really.
Yeah, it's as needed, but the point is to train and have templates in place.
Right.
Which we didn't have before.
I just didn't know if in the motion to approve this, if we need to set a number of hours per week or something so that it doesn't, cascade into an, how much did that cost?
Right.
How many hours do you think a week would be sufficient?
I don't know until we're done with the audit.
I would assume it would go down as time goes on.
Right.
Would be
Yes.
my assumption.
Yes, that's
Right.
Maybe more hours in the beginning, fewer hours.
Well, I'm thinking, if she needs to spend 80 hours in the first month working on it, well, maybe we separate that out. Well, I'm just ballparking numbers here. So if we said that, maximum of 20 hours a week with, that way things can carry over. So we've got an idea of how much we're going to be, what the cap on this is. What are your thoughts?
I don't think at least I'm not as concerned about a runaway train on this as much as I'm concerned about making sure that this leads to an end as opposed to an ongoing situation. That's, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
Absolutely. I just wanted to bring it up because I just didn't see any money signs in there. And I'm
yeah.
Yes.
I just need you to keep in mind that Jamie needs her too. Also, I spoke with Jamie this afternoon. So just keep that in mind when you're calculating
This is for
hours.
both the treasurer and the clerk.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
And is Lisa the only one that's going to be working on this, or is she going to
Yes.
bring in other people in her company to help that might charge additional hours?
No, it would be just her.
Okay.
Any other
Are there going to
discussion?
be, I'm so sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, are there going to be reports to the board on the progress that's made, since she's going to report to you?
I did ask her about that, and she would gladly provide me with something like quarterly or however often that you wanted it for reporting.
I'm kind of thinking that this might not be bad to bring up on a monthly basis, because it's going to add up quick at $150 an hour, or that ballpark.
Definitely.
So, thank you.
Any other comments, discussion?
So are we going to put a number
I don't
out
think
there?
so.
Monthly?
because I don't
Not
want to
to exceed.
constrain, as I said before, I don't want to constrain the ability to get the work done by some random, number that we're just assigning. I think we just want to get this thing done and get it done so that it ends. And this is just a done. We're done, as opposed to an ongoing, lingering thing.
Something else on this that I feel that we should bring up is that the CPA services are great, and they're gonna get Josh, and they're gonna help, and they're gonna get the finances, the help that they need to move forward. But I don't feel that this is a permanent solution moving forward.
No, it's not.
And I think that we should absolutely start to consider a finance director. And I know that that's a dirty word, and everybody's like, oh, I don't want to pay anybody. But you know what? The fact is that looking into the future, we don't know if Josh or Jamie are going to be in these seats after the next election. And since there are no prerequisites for these positions, and that any person that under the sun can get put on the ballot and voted into these positions, I think it is our responsibility looking into the future that we put some things in place to help these people, whoever they may be in the future, through these times of, trying to learn something. I mean, I've been in IT for many years, and some of the software packages that you can work with out there are ridiculously massive. And I can remember the first time that I sat down at an AutoCAD package, and I mean, there's so many things to click on the screen, you don't even know where to start a new document at. And I can only imagine the accounting software that is BS&A. I mean, Jamie's been working on it for,
20 plus years.
20 plus years, and she still finds new things that it can do, still finds things that we should have been doing that haven't been happening. And so I don't think it's right for us to set up future elected officials to get dropped into these positions and expect them to understand how to work the software from day one. And we can help with training and all that, but I mean, there's a lot to do, and I think that it would be beneficial if the finances had someone in charge that would work with the clerk and the treasurer's office to make sure that these things happen in the future correctly, so that we don't have to put ourselves in these positions again. What are your thoughts?
I would agree with that.
I would agree, yeah.
I think a finance director would be a good move for the future going forward.
All right, well, for today,
And that is something we talked about, because Jamie's done it for so long.
Right.
You're not gonna get to 20-year treasurer
No.
or 30-year treasurer when those people leave.
you might not even get somebody that even understands how to use money at all. They have no financial training at all, but they could be elected to that position and expected to perform the job duties therein.
Right.
And I just think that we should set it up a little bit better for them, whoever they might be in the future. I mean, we're not going to live forever, so. To that end, right now, I would make a motion that we retain the services of Graysick & Graysick for CPA services, and for month-end adjustments, preparation of various reconciliations and training for both the clerk and the treasurer, with monthly reports directly to our board at a board meeting.
Yep. Support Cummings.
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed.
And before we move on, I would like to make, I don't know if this is the proper time, but I would like to make another motion authorizing the superintendent of our township to begin the preparations for a financial director. Find out what what the charges for a financial
Don't
director
think we
are.
can do that way, because
We
it's
can't.
not on the agenda. Yeah.
It's, okay, well, then I
Yeah.
will,
It's
I
a
will
separate
wait.
point, separate discussion.
Didn't Mr. Woostenbarth have something arranged along that line, discussed a couple of meetings ago? Something
Yeah.
about,
His term financial director was actually, I felt ill-advised, because really what he was proposing was a financial consultant. And actually, even then, the person was going to be a part-time employee. So the mixture of terms made it confusing as to what we were really going to try to do there.
I thought there was two parts, that he wanted us to go down to another township.
He
and-
did, correct.
I thought
I
that was
haven't
part
heard
of
when that was
financial
scheduled.
advisor.
Yeah, but I haven't heard when that was scheduled. It's not on my calendar. So,
Well, then I will rescind my motion and wait for a future discussion on that specific topic. But I'd like to see it come back before the end of the year. Please.
Next up is the fireworks contract.
All right, your packet contains a contract from Ace Pyro LLC for a fireworks display for the 4th of July. Our previous vendor, Great Lakes Fireworks, has decided last minute not to add Oscoda to their fireworks agenda on the 4th, so staff reached out to quickly find a vendor. Ace Pyro has agreed to the budgeted amount of $15,500, which was budgeted in 2023 budget. So a little background, I reached out to Great Lakes Fireworks in February, and that's where it started. I made several calls, I sent emails, and the last call that I had with Great Lakes was, we're working on finding employees. Employees are really hard to find, which they have struggled with in the past. So I had Tara continue to call, and the final word not that long ago was, oh, well, we had a hard time with your help you provided last year, and we just can't do it.
We had a hard time, repeat that?
With the help that the township had provided last year. We had the wrestling team, was it the wrestling team last year? Josh? I believe so.
Soccer team last year, wrestling.
So we had, they were there in the morning to load the fireworks onto the pier, and they stayed after 11 because everything has to cool down, so they have to stay a long time, and they helped put the things back in the truck, their whatever they shoot the fireworks off with, and they were not satisfied with the help that we provided last year.
Didn't we also discuss raising the budget a little bit every
We
year?
did. We
So
did
it
raise the
went from 15
budget
to
for
15.5, right?
Great Lakes Fireworks, yes.
Now, I see in this contract with Ace Pyro, they require 6 additional crew members.
Yes, which we have already reached out for volunteers, and we have those.
We have
Yes,
at least 6.
yes.
Okay.
Because he said, I believe he said 6 to 12, but we already have 6, so we can still keep working.
So these are non-paid volunteers that are going to be helping this company with their fireworks display?
Some will be employees.
But are there non-paid volunteers in the mix?
Yes, yes.
Who insures them?
I think they do. They would have to.
I would think so.
Not us.
No, but does it say that they're insured in the contract? I didn't see it in there.
No.
They have to
Question.
provide a liability contract?
I'll have to talk to him. There's a new company. I was just glad, I mean, Great Lakes offered to do it on the 6th, and I said no. You can't have 4th of July fireworks on the 6th. That just isn't, it's not right. So we reached out to whoever we could find, and they actually, if you go on their website, they do fabulous displays. I wish we could afford the one that they have that's on the website, but
Sure.
that's for another, like, maybe 20 years from now. So
Right.
it's a $30,000 event, so.
Oh, that's only double.
Well, in the contract, it says they're carrying general liability insurance, the amount of $10 million, and naming us as additional insured. So I think
So
that should cover
them.
us.
Yes.
Well, that should cover us, but does that cover the people that are volunteering for
The
them?
volunteers
Is there-
would be under
Anything
their
That would be under us.
Does it? All right.
We're providing.
Even if
Well,
it blew
then-
up in one into the crowd, that's why they have to carry so much.
Well, then I would make a motion.
I'd really like to understand, did you have any context into this comment about last year's satisfaction with our volunteers until this last few days?
No, and as a matter of fact, this has been contentious for quite a few years
Oh, I
with
see.
them, with Great Lakes. And as anybody from our DPW staff was here, they could attest to that. But
I see.
they never made any comments last year regarding their help, nothing. And it was up until recently, they had just been trying to locate employees under the guise of, nobody wants to work, which a lot of people are experiencing. So
Yeah,
I didn't think anything of
A lot
that.
of industries are hit with that. All right. Well, thanks.
Yeah, that's odd, isn't it?
It is,
At the
yeah.
last second, they're going to, oh, well, we were unhappy.
What I'm particularly concerned about, to be blunt, is that you've got kids who are willing to volunteer, from a wrestling team who, after a year, are now getting, slammed with some.
It was the soccer team.
I'm so sorry, I heard wrestling just a moment ago. But, yeah, to hear, it just seems ridiculous, and I'm kind of offended on their behalf.
It sounds more like an excuse to me. Sounds
Yeah.
like an excuse. We can't get ready for you guys, so we're going to blame you.
Well, wasn't it last year they asked for more money for us to keep it on the 4th last year?
Yes. Or the year
And to
before.
maintain it
Would've
on the
been
4th going
21.
forward is
Yeah,
what
yeah.
I thought when we did that increase.
Didn't they say earlier that they wouldn't be able to do it on the 4th?
Well, that's what they said this year, that
Yeah,
they
this
could
year.
do it on the 6th, but not on the 4th.
Yeah,
So,
and this will be on the 4th.
yes.
So, do I have a motion?
I would make a motion to approve the contract with Ace Pyro and the budgeted amount of $15,500.
Support Cummings.
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes. Motion passed. It's kind of a shame, we were working with Great Lakes
Yeah,
for how many years?
long time.
10, 15 years?
Yeah, long time.
And all of a sudden,
I'll bet you that they've just gotten to a point that they're established, and they're getting offers from townships and cities that are way bigger than we are and have way more budgetary items. And instead of them coming back and saying, well, we just don't like you, they just made a bunch of excuses at the last second. That's what it feels like to me.
well, they don't have to travel so far to get up here to Oscoda.
Right.
All right, Resolution 2023-11. As it relates to the gaming license that Mrs. Reitler had talked about. I think basically what this is the state, before they'll give out a gaming license, wants to make sure that it's a legitimate offer, not just somebody that's applying so that they can raffle off some stuff and put money in their pocket. As Ms. Reitler clearly pointed out, they work, they raise their own money, do their own work, they're all volunteer. I would like to consider for our next budget, if we can't budget some money for purchasing of some of the flowers. I know we can't contribute money to an organization, but it seems to me we could, say, buy $500 worth of flowers
For,
for the beautification committee?
we do buy flowers.
Oh, we do?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Great idea, we just did it.
I didn't realize we were contributing money. Okay, that's good. I'm glad we are.
Learn something new every day.
So this is to, this resolution recognizing the beautification committee as a legitimate organization. So we simply have to fill out this form and authorize it and send it in. So I will make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-11 as it relates to a gaming license for the Oscoda Beautification Committee.
Support? Sutton?
Support, motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes. Motion passed. Get your,
Thank you.
get your license. Be legal. And I will buy a ticket. So see me later.
And may I stop by the township and get a copy of it?
I think we can
Josh should have it done tomorrow.
have that done tomorrow.
Yes. I need, yeah.
Oh, you got
I'll have to coordinate with you, so when I come back, we'll get it done and I'll get a hold of you.
Okay. We'll let you know when it's ready. Okay. Okay. Next is Resolution 2023-12, relating to the DWRF.
So this is the identical to the CWSRF resolution that we passed recently. Ryan can come up here if you want to ask him some questions.
I'm just curious, what area of the township would this DWRF plan being applied towards?
Well,
In terms
first
of
all,
the water mains that are going to be extended?
yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ryan Baer with Rowe. So to answer your question, we have 11 different project locations that we're applying for in this application, and they are scattered throughout the township. So I'd say 3 of them are near the base, and then the other 8 are, again, scattered throughout. So the project locations were based off of the Oscoda water reliability study that was completed last year that had recommendations for improvement. So it made it a little easier to hone in on areas to apply for this funding.
And so are any of these areas of concern for PFAS?
Yes. Yep. One area in particular would be the Air Force Base. I believe there was another study completed in 2020 by FNV about the hydrants on the base, having the plugs not functioning correctly, or the hydrants are not plugged, which allow for the weep holes. So it's allowing, groundwater to infiltrate into the system potentially. So yeah, that's a big project area in there. I think there was 1.1 million in funding to remove, replace, or repair several hundred hydrants on the base. That'd be north and south perimeter road.
Okay, so not all of this is for drinking water.
It's all tied to the drinking water, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the drinking water revolving fund. I
Right,
understand.
and what it was is the hydrants
It's in the water
were
system.
identified by Eagle in several of their surveys that they've done for the township over the last several years, that the hydrants on the base need to be replaced. And I know Catherine has had 4 or 5 in her budget every year to do so. This will basically, if we're funded through this will take care of the rest of the hydrants on the base. And because of their age, they are allowing the potential of groundwater infiltration into the drinking water system, just because of their vintage 1950. And they're cast iron, cracked, and as Ryan said, they're missing plugs and all of that stuff. So a major component will be to replace those hydrants there, and then, as he said, several locations around the township where we're looping water main, which we put in through the C2R2, but they're dead-end mains, so now we're going to be able to loop them for future maintenance and all of that stuff. So it's kind of cleaning up what we've been doing for the last several years on the grant programs, catching the outside fringe areas, and then updating several old main areas within the township.
Okay. I'm just considering that if it's related to PFAS on the base, maybe another area where we can go after the Air Force for remuneration on some of these things.
Well, again, as I said earlier in my report, there is the potential here for principal forgiveness, and they're going to take that into consideration.
Okay.
So,
Okay. All right. Any other discussion, questions, comments? Do I have a motion?
Sure, I move that we adopt resolution number 2023-12. Support? Sutton?
We have a motion by Mr. Cummings, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next, ZBA applicant. I think this is for the alternate position, I believe. Is that correct?
It doesn't say.
Doesn't specify.
No.
I think this is for a regular position.
Yeah,
we are very short, aside from Jeremy's addition to the ZBA. We still need, I think, 2 more, a regular member and an alternate on the ZBA, besides Jeremy.
I thought we appointed.
I believe we have 5 right now on there. This would be an alternate.
Yeah.
I think Mr. Spencer was number 5. We never had a board representative on that before.
But it
So
doesn't
this would
say
be
that
the-
on the application, that's the reason I'm saying.
Well, was his original application, which he
Right.
didn't get in before the previous board meeting. When I talked to Ms. Follette, she said that
Okay.
he's happy with being the alternate.
So Jeremy he counts as a...
Yes,
Offense.
of course he counts.
Okay, then it would be an alternate, yes.
He's loud enough, we know he counts.
Well, would it be appropriate to reach out and see if maybe he'd like to serve on the Senior Commission on Aging Board there as well?
We could, but can we approve him for this one?
Oh, yeah.
He's also indicated on here that he's interested in the Planning Commission, which there's
Right.
an open seat on the Planning Commission as well,
Right.
which we have advertised for, so. Hopefully
Well, it
we'll get some
says-
applications for that.
I mean, his application says Zoning Board of Appeals or Planning Commission, so,
Can there be, because Greg Schultz is the Planning Commission representative
Yeah, he
on the
couldn't do
ZBA.
both. Yeah, he couldn't do
So-
both. So I think Ms. Follette indicated that he was interested in being the alternate for the Zoning Board of Appeals. That's what she told me. So,
Yes, he really wanted to be on the ZBA.
so is there a motion?
I'm not sure.
I mean, should we go back and ask him, since there's a
Yeah.
seat on both boards, of which one he prefers?
He would rather be ZBA. I just received that
Yes, that's.
message.
He texted to you?
No, Nicole did. She just,
Did she watch it? Hi, Nicole.
she's watching.
All right, well, there it is. I would
We'll take your advice.
move to appoint Jared Movin?
Close enough.
Sorry, Jared.
Jared.
To the Zoning Board of Appeals
Is the alternate.
as the alternate.
Support Cummings.
Have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes,
Mr. Palmer?
Yes. Motion passed. Next is the
congratulations.
Old Orchard Park bike rental agreement.
So, Mr. Apsitas and I reached out to the township attorney to have her create this rental agreement. We knew we would have it finished before we got the bikes, so we're just starting to get some of the bikes. I think we got some today, and now you have this bicycle rental agreement to approve, so the park can start running out bicycles.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the Old Orchard Bicycle and Equipment Rental Agreement as written.
Support, Spencer.
We have a motion by Mr. Taser, support by Mr. Spencer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes,
Mr. Palmer?
Yes. Motion passed. Next is the superintendent contract.
so I know that there was at least one request for this contract to be provided in changed form, like with change bars and where the additions were. I know that Jamie requested it of Tammy earlier, I don't know when earlier, but I know that. And I just wondered if this was actually provided and if there was a discussion with Jamie. Because
She
was-
asked me for it on Friday when I was in class, to which she asked me for my old contract.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't involved in this process of the new contract provided.
Right,
And I had asked her to reach out to Josh or Shelley because they had a copy of, I didn't have it, I was in class. so,
Right, sure, of course.
And I don't know if she did reach out
Well,
to
Josh-
either,
Yeah, she did.
okay, so she would have gotten it on Friday.
Did you? Yeah, you
And
did.
I did, Tara should have placed it in the packet, because I didn't know anyone else had requested a copy of it. But I did have it.
I actually think that in going forward in the future, when we're doing modifications to an existing document, it's best to present them with the change bars and what's being changed, because it leads to questions that came up in the audience as well as even for myself, and I'm on the contract committee, and I don't remember what changed exactly and where, so.
I had no contact with the attorney
No,
when
I know
this
that.
was,
Yep, it's
so
not-
I apologize for
Yep,
not
that's
having
right.
it in there, so.
Yeah, it's okay. No, I'm just saying that it's a good practice and when we're putting these things together. So, what's that?
Was this one approved by our current township attorney?
Yes. Bill?
Yes.
Can speak to that. You can speak to this was approved by the township attorney, the labor attorney.
Yeah, and there really weren't a lot of changes to the contract per se. What our township attorney, because he sent it to her, and what she recommended is in the old language, there was no language in there for severance for non-cause. There was plenty of language if the superintendent was terminated for cause, like for committing a felony or whatever, but nothing for being terminated not for cause. And our township attorney, in her writing on there, said that typically it should be at least 3 to 6 months severance if a superintendent's, that's standard, what you call standard, for being terminated without cause. And so that's basically the changes that were made from the old contract to this one. There
Didn't
really
we
isn't-
provide that same severance package to the previous superintendent?
No. No, that was one of the problems, is that the contract that we were using for Tammy was the same one that we were using for, I think, Mr. Schaefer, that
I'm
had
talking
even
about
met.
Mr. Mitchell.
Mitchell, yes,
Because we
but-
did give him a severance package when he
We
left.
had it in
Yes, there was
his
some,
contract.
correct, but the point was, we needed that defined, and we wanted a part of the contract. That was the point. And so, yeah, that was just a matter of cleaning up the contract. It was something that should have been there, but our previous attorneys neglected to include it. Is that about fair way to put it?
There was plenty of language for termination for cause, but no language for non-cause.
Right.
And that was the primary change in the contract that our attorney came up with. So, any other comments, concerns? Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the employment agreement for the Charter Township of Oscoda for Superintendent Ms. Tammy Klein as written.
Support. Palmer? We have a motion by Mr. Taser, support by Mr. Palmer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. And I'd like to say this is long overdue. This has gone on for 8 months, and in all fairness to our previous superintendent, she was not able to get the negotiating team together because of personal tragedies in her life, with deaths in the family and so on. So we had to, once I became superintendent, we had to appoint a third person to the negotiating team, and then we were able to confer with the attorney and get the language straightened out. Next is the Babe the Blue Ox. This was a proposal that was in my mailbox at Township Hall from Ann Rataj from the Artisan Hall, where they're proposing building a life-size Babe the Blue Ox. It's expensive though, almost $22,000. Ms. Klein, do you have any, you had some information on a smaller project for this?
Yes, I believe the librarian, Miss Robin Savage, she's actually going to make some wood they're like cutouts. I hate to say it like a cutout because it's actually made of wood, but she is in the process right now of making 3, but I don't know exactly what size they are. It's definitely going to be smaller than this project right here.
These are the type that stick your head in it and they take a picture of you.
I'm not sure. She just approached me if I would give permission for her to do that, and I know Robin's a great artist, so I said, you know, how much are you thinking here? And it was a very modest price, $300 for each one, and there's 3. So I said, by all means, because she did a lot of the work on the Paul Bunyan statue. So she is making it smaller than what this is presented as, but.
So this would be a completely different project to build a life-size Blue Ox to put there next to Paul Bunyan.
Yes.
And it's not on a pedestal like Paul Bunyan is either. This is be right on the ground.
It probably should be, to be up
Yeah, I was going to say that the perspective would be
by
right.
him,
What's that?
up next to him.
Yeah, exactly, right, yeah. I don't know.
So, thoughts?
I would love to see a Babe the Blue Ox over there, but the tune of $22,000 is, but it's going to be a big.
It's an undertaking, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's the undertaking, then it's going to be a big piece of art there that's going to be. And they're talking about epoxy supplies and chicken wire to kind of mold everything there.
Yeah, it's an incredible project.
I would be interested to know about, they're talking about, well, I guess fiberglass and epoxy resin would probably hold up to the sunlight pretty well, sitting out there on the field.
That's what Paul's made out of.
It's what Paul's made out of, yeah, it's the same thing, yeah.
And he does require maintenance on occasion.
Yeah, not every month. Well, I mean, it's resilient,
Yeah.
but it's not permanent.
We'd probably have to check with the DPW to find out what we'd have to do to improve the base, to enlarge the base for it to sit. It'd
Unless
be a
you
much
make
larger base.
its own separate next to it.
Yeah.
And
Concrete
maybe
slab.
there's things you could do with that, you know. It would be nice to have a history.
History
Next.
plaque
Yes, next
showing
to
that he was born here, not in California.
Yes.
Actually, a kiosk is possible. I've talked with a few people that mentioned that if you're in Michigan, may be able to help us there to put something up. So we're going to work on that a little bit. But on my opinion on Babe the Blue Ox, I would like to see a better representation of Babe. When I think of Babe, I think of the long-haired or long-horned ox, steer. That's depicted in most of the Disney movies and things of that nature of Babe. And to me, this looks more like a bull, you know, like this bull market in Chicago, you know. I love the idea of having. I would also say life size isn't big enough for Babe. I think it should be bigger than life, because that's what Babe was, bigger than life. And I think that we should look more into this topic and see what we can do. I mean, there's other ways of funding a project like this. I put on rock concerts for the Veterans Memorial Park and we raised $40,000. I mean, there's other ways to fund something like this. I think this is a project the community could get behind and get going, and really, if we're going to do Babe, let's do Babe the way he should be depicted.
To scale.
We are the birthplace of Paul Bunyan here.
Yeah.
So,
And I think it should beat the scale as well. I don't know if this is, but I mean,
5
you can't-
foot tall is not, to me, That's,
I don't know. It depends on how tall the Paul Bunyan statue is. I mean, you build a gigantic
well,
ox and you
I
dwarf Paul
I
Bunyan.
just saw he
then-
was 13 feet tall. I know he wouldn't go through the DPW doors, so 13 feet tall, so, you know, Babe is, when you depict him in the story on the box, he's got his arm like this around Babe.
That's more than 5 feet.
That's more than 5 feet.
Yeah.
You're at 10.
I agree. I think we should, I'd like to see us delve into this and see what we can do.
Yeah, let's take it as advisement and bring it back. Bring it back to the board.
We'll postpone this until
Yeah.
another date, maybe have some more conversations
Yeah.
with the artist. Yeah. Okay. Can someone make a motion to postpone?
Sure, so I make a motion that we postpone the topic of a life-size Babe the Blue Ox. Support, so.
We have a motion by Mr. Cummings, support from Mr. Sutton to postpone this item. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next, Mr. Sutton, you had the...
No,
Memorial
next
Day
is
parade.
policy subcommittee.
Beg your pardon?
Oh.
One more.
yes,
One more.
Skip one more. Policy subcommittee appointment. We need a person, another person on the policy committee. This committee doesn't meet very often, but when we have items in our policy that need to be reviewed and revised, the policy committee has to get together to do that.
How often would you say they meet? Every year? How many times a year? Ballpark? Average?
We don't change the policy that often. I wouldn't say it's once every year even.
And never before.
We do
that.
have a lot to go over, though. We haven't had a full policy subcommittee in a while, so I do have a list.
You asking for a member of this board to volunteer?
Yes.
I'll do it. Well, that was easy.
I will move to approve Mr. Taser to the policy committee.
Support. Spencer.
Motion by Mr. Palmer, support by Mr. Spencer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Teaser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. So we have some work to do on policies, and we will get to that. Next is the Memorial Day Parade.
And just looking for board approval to hold the Memorial Day Parade Monday, Memorial Day at 11 a.m. We chose 11 a.m. so it abuts up to the ceremony at Veterans Memorial Park. And just kind of looking to make it a fun-filled day of thanking our veterans for all they do. A fun fact in working on this, I talked with Oscoda County Veterans Affairs, and 2/3 of the veterans for Oscoda County reside in Oscoda Township. Just, you know.
Are the VFW and American Legion going to be able to attend?
No, they're doing other memorial ceremonies that they had.
Ouch.
But we have Veterans Memorial, the museum, and several other people helping us with that.
Sorry about that. Okay. I would like to say that it would be better form if we got this approval in advance of all the promotion that I've been seeing coming out on this particular event. I'm sorry. I mean, board members who want to sponsor events are subject to the same rules as everybody else.
No, thank you for catching that, I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I want to make sure we can still have a parade.
Yes.
Right.
All right.
So is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the Memorial Day Parade on Memorial Day 2023 at 11 a.m. Be sure to attend.
Support Sutton.
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. And look forward to an exciting parade on Memorial Day. Next is our second public comment. This is open to anyone regarding anything you want to talk about.
Hi, I'm going to talk and move these so that people here can see them too. And my name is Chad McDonald. And what if we had a town where we could thoroughly enjoy the river that goes through it, and we could walk along the river's edge and enjoy it like I did as a kid growing up in downtown Oscoda at my parents' place. 450 feet on the riverfront I got to play with. And lots of other property owners in town did the same thing. But what if we gave the river back to the community? Right downtown from Mill Street Bridge to River Road Bridge. That's very possible. Very possible. I'm looking at the clock. It took me a minute, so. I'm a property owner at 119 and 201 West Dwight Street. My brother and I, Peter, are proposing a Piety Hill Commons multi-use development, a retail space on the first floor of an existing property using the RAP 2.0 grant that Mr. Freeman talked about. And we have 450 feet of riverfront. We've gotten together on a boat May 12th with Mr. Taser and Mr. Palmer and Peggy Gilbert and Teresa Landino Elderman and Peter Simpson and the director of the Huron Pines Land Conservancy, Brad Jensen. And we went from River Road Bridge to Mill Street Bridge using these images, which I know you can't see here, but I want them to be shown so that maybe they'd be picked up by the TV, and you can certainly come up and look at them. But this is a possibility. We have, from the PNC Bank to the Piety Hill Boardwalk Bridge, all the landowners in agreement to consider using their waterfront, their riverfront for a boardwalk. We just got off the phone today with the PNC Bank, who said that they're willing to talk more about the possibilities of this. They don't want to stand in the way, quote unquote, of a town revitalizing their riverfront. Then if you look from PNC Bank to the Mill Street Bridge, all that property is available. The property owners there are willing. The only exception to this right now is at the top of Piety Hill, just before the Riverbend Park. There's 4 residents there. 2 of them are on board, 1 I haven't contacted, and 1's against. So there really is a whole lot of support for this, a whole lot. There's an ad hoc committee that's been formed. Peggy and Teresa are on it, and I'm on it, and we're looking for more members. We're going to have a June 3rd open house downtown on East Dwight Street, next to the office and across from the Lake Theater. Music, conversation, images like this, and as well as the Piety Hill Commons images that people can look at and see how we might be able to revitalize our downtown area by giving the river back to the community.
Thank you. Your 4 minutes. Thank you.
Yes.
It's very exciting.
Nice. It's a very cool
And
idea.
I would just say that Mr. McDonald rented a pontoon and asked me to pilot that boat. So last Friday we went down and I drove the boat, and it's a beautiful scene along the river there. That we went from River Road all the way up past Mill Street Bridge, and this is something that I know Peggy Gilbert's been working on this project for years, trying to get this river walk established there. So I think this is an excellent project that I believe the township could get behind and support completely. Okay, next, anybody over here? Left.
My name is Dr. Meister, and I'm here to talk about the bicycle rental agreement. Just recently in the news, there was a confrontation between a woman, a nurse who was pregnant, and a gentleman of color over who had proper rights to the rental bike. This confrontation made national news, with many in the media, in the press, online, politicians, civic leaders calling her racist and her actions racially motivated. Since that time, her lawyer has gone on national TV and produced a valid rental agreement showing matching numbers. That bicycle was indeed properly rented by her. They are now in the process of suing all those who defamed her, called her a racist. Now, I don't have any special information other than that, but I'm willing to bet they're also suing the rental company for not having the proper procedures in place to prevent such mix-ups. All right? And I doubt if their rental agreement covers this unusual and unexpected situation. It is therefore my suggestion that we include an additional clause in that rental agreement in which any grievances or issues or problems that cannot be resolved by mutual conversation and mutually agreed upon not go to court, but go to an arbitration panel. Now, the nature and the makeup of this arbitration panel can be worked out later on, but this would surely protect us against the unexpected. As I said, I'm sure if that rental company's feeling like they were just blindsided here and it probably was just an honest mistake. But as I said, considering the nature of today's environment, political environment, I certainly would want to learn from that experience and not have it repeated in our community. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Anyone else on the left here? Yes.
Kevin Kubik, Oscoda. As far as regards your CPA agreement, Mr. Sutton, it's been 2.5 years of you being in the position that you're in, and you're still not capable of doing the job or the duties or responsibilities of the clerk. I mean, I don't know at what point are you just going to accept defeat and step down and resign since you cannot fulfill your duties. Last week I did a FOIA request to the township regarding the Wex bank statements and stuff. Now, what I was wondering is, in March of 2023, if you guys could explain, Mr. Sutton, regarding invoice number 8823703, why were we once again charged a finance charge of $826.96 once again?
We don't answer questions.
But you can. You just don't answer my questions, Mr. Palmer.
We don't answer anybody's questions.
You do. The other question that I have is actually for you, Mr. Palmer. I did a FOIA request on 5/15 to the township regarding emails between any township board members and Fire Chief Alan McGregor regarding any of the firefighter applicants since January 1st, 2023 until present. On May 19th, 2023, I received a response back from Mr. Sutton. Now, Mr. Palmer, as the leader of the township and supervisor, why did you send Fire Chief Alan McGregor an email on May 4th, 2023, saying, quote, "Based on advice from our attorney, I am requesting that you remove your request for the township board to consider Kevin Kubik being hired on the township fire department," end quote. Interesting, isn't it? So the fire chief selected me to be hired back to the fire department, but Ms. Klein and you and this board prevented that from happening. So remember that. So I can assume also, Mr. Palmer, that I'm not going to be hired under the police department as a police officer, which I'm also qualified and applied for also. Now, so far this year, I've applied to the Oscoda Township for the assistant to the superintendent's position. I've applied to the police officer position, which you're still hiring to. You just posted once again that you're hiring to. I also applied for the firefighter position, which you still have 3 openings that you refused to allow me on to the volunteer fire department to volunteer my time for my community. And I also applied to the janitor position. Mr. Palmer, I commanded your police department for the last 2 years of employment with this township as a sergeant of your police department, and now you guys won't even let me scrub your poop stains out of the toilet. How pathetic is this? I also submitted a request to be placed on the agenda, and this board denied my request. Now, you guys said it was because I was an Oscoda resident and I was going to speak about lawsuits and stuff. But that's not true at all, and nobody asked me to clarify that, Mr. Palmer. I had questions about the chain of command, not any questions about my lawsuits. I had some legit questions, and those questions were this. I submitted some FOIA requests requesting copies of Chief Mark David's duty logs for the last 2 years, and I received a response back that no records exist. I requested Chief Mark David's evaluations for the last 5 years, and I received a response back that no records exist. I requested the evaluations on Supervisor Bill Hamlin from DPW for the last 5 years, and no records exist. I also requested the evaluations of the Fire Chief, Alan McGregor, for the last 5 years, and no records exist. So why are we paying Tammy Klein $85,000 a year to supervise the township when she's clearly not doing her job in supervising the employees? And as far as the board members that have been here for more than the last couple of years, in the last 5 years, you guys haven't done your jobs as well either, as leaders. Thank you.
Anyone here in the center? Yes. Ms. Lovelace.
Hi, I'm Pam Lovelace, resident of Oscoda, business owner, developer, and I want to speak to the board tonight on 3 subject matters. One was the formal complaint filed against the township for conflict of interest with regard to a building that I was offered through the airport authority for my new nonprofit for a food pantry, which I've been engaged in for the last 8 months. Sent the information over to all the board members. My original complaint was involving Tammy Klein because as the interim economic development officer, I had disclosed to her the buildings and projects that I was in process with on base. Having gone through several emails of information and, one party pointing the finger at the other and getting the final information on how all this came down, I wanted to personally come and apologize to Ms. Klein, because although she was given the information, what was given back to me did not support what I was told from the other party in the beginning. But I feel that both parties failed me as a business owner in that when you disclose information to the representative who is representing you that information should be held in a confidential manner. And if the township decides to go after the same property, or it is offered to them, I think that both parties have an obligation to let the party in first position know. And I found out by going in to sign a lease to find out that the fire department had already taken it. And that's how I found out, and that never should happen. So I did request for the township to sign a non-disclosure, non-compete for the economic development officer or the interim economic development officer to protect my future interests. I have talked to our state representative, Mike Coley, who has agreed to stand in until this is resolved, so that I can continue meeting with MEDC and other entities on my projects going forward. But I would like a formal response to that. Secondarily, I have applied for an EIC committee alternate position, and I was told initially that there wasn't enough time to get it on the first meeting. I was told that it was going to go to the vote the second meeting. That never happened. So I pulled my application because I was given an opinion that I would not be a good candidate because I was a developer. And I refute that in that my experience as a developer actually is a benefit to that board. But I don't give my time to areas that don't want me. Lastly, running out of time, I wanted to put forth at the board that I am moving forward with the state of Michigan for a child care center to be on the Wordsmith Air Force Base that will serve 50 to 200 children that is desperately needed, and I will need support. Thank you.
I have a question before you walk away. Can you please tell me who it was that told you that this was going to be on an agenda?
Yes. Initially, it was, I had inquired why it did not make the first board member agenda, and I was told by Ms. Klein that it was too much on the agenda already, and they didn't have time to get it on that. But I was told that it would be on the agenda for May 8th, which it did not happen either. So from what I've watched, there's only been one appointment vote, and that was tonight. So, I felt like I was being retaliated against for filing this complaint, and that may not be the case, but, I think if any citizen wants to give their time and their service to their community, they have, they should have the right to go to a vote. And that's just my thought.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Senator? Yes.
Good evening. My name is Mary Ed Tootin. I live here in Oscoda. Two things that I wanted to bring up was, one, I was told that the CDAM membership for the township would be on this agenda, and it was not. So I just wanted to remind you that we need to take a look at that. The training is coming up in about 2.5 weeks. Did you have something you wanted to say? Tammy? No. Sorry, I just thought you had taken a breath to say something. Anyway, the township should get a CDAM membership, which allows those of us who are on committees to do training under that membership. And I haven't heard anything more about it, so just wanted to mention it. The other thing is that I did a research on the facade grant, because I was away on medical leave for part of that time, and there was a bit of confusion that entered into that. And so I went back into the agendas and minutes to try to figure out what exactly had occurred. And what I found was that the minutes and the agendas don't really line up. You can't really tell what the heck happened. There was August, September timeframe, something like that, from the Economic Improvement Committee. The facade grant was presented, and so that was a version. 2 months later, there was another version, but there was nothing in the minutes that indicated why it had changed. And then when it was presented to the board, it was a different version. Again, no reason why. And then when we got it in committee, in the Economic Improvement Committee, to actually execute, it was different again. It's like, I don't know what happened because it's not in the minutes. So all I'm asking is that the minutes actually line up with what occurred in the meeting. And there are several times where the minutes need to be changed or modified or corrected or something. And it's like, accept the minutes as noted, with corrections as noted, but those corrections actually never make it into the archival copy. So I think I would like to see going forward that we force the minutes to be presented perfectly before they're accepted. And that's what goes into the archival copy, because it is really hard to follow the bouncing ball, if you will, to see what's going on from one meeting to the next and follow a progression and see how things have changed. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hello, Lane McKenzie, business owner. I just wanted to come to talk about the Blue Ox kind of art project that is put to you guys. I'm glad you're taking a little more time to figure out if this is something that we can do. I know as chair of the Art and Placemaking Subcommittee, we're not using all of that budget that we were planning for this year. So to be able to maybe help facilitate with Ann Rattay or anything like that, to kind of see if there's a way that we can change what she was going to do and make it something that everybody is interested in. I think that's great. So I want to kind of keep with the art and going upward with that. And then I also wanted to show my support for Pam Lovelace. As a business owner, she's been able to give me a little more insight on what she's looking for as a vision for this town. And I think it's really important that people that have that kind of vision are given the option to follow their dreams and do the things that they want to do in our area. So I just wanted to give my support for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes.
I love these. Don't you love these?
I
It's
do love
amazing.
them. I have
Great,
to
thank you
admit.
for bringing that to our township. Kelly Brown, Oscoda, I love that. We need to do that. And all the business owners want to allow their property to become common space. That's amazing. Thank you for putting that together. That's a ton of work. Anyways, I wanted to come up a couple of things. Whole finance director thing, not really in big support of that. I would be okay with it if we could figure out our problems first and then evaluate if we need one. One solution, Jeremy, to your whole new people coming in thing, a lot of companies, and we're basically a company, but we don't make any profit, they put together an SOP. You do screenshots. That's exactly what I did when you guys were going through the website revisions. I took screenshots of everything that didn't work and sent it. So why couldn't we look at something like that first and foremost? We had a CPA all last year. That's a big expense, and now we're bringing them back, and we don't really have a defined budget allocation, which brings me to a follow-up I had asked prior, was to consider putting a year-to-date total and a budget total on the end of the financials, which, by the way, did we approve those financials tonight? Did you guys approve them earlier?
Consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay. I just didn't, usually you go through and you talk about them. Like, you always bring up something about a number, and I just didn't hear any dialogue, so I wasn't sure if it all happened. But I did want to say, I went to the RAB meeting, or I didn't go to it, but I attended it online. They're very in detailed, and I appreciate our representative from the board, Trustee Cummings, going to those. It was a ton of info, and I just wish the township would be a little more forceful as a government entity to the Air Force. We deserve to have this stuff cleaned up. 30 years is a long time. Like, we need to make some noise. And our township board needs to be writing letters on the first request to our groups in the community, the NOW group, for example. Like, why wasn't Kathy at this meeting that you guys had with the Air Force? I saw Josh's name, I didn't see Trustee Cummings' name, and I didn't see, like, Kathy from the NOW group. If you guys are having a meeting with the stuff that was in the packet tonight. Like, why weren't those two there? I think it should be there. Before I forget, Touch a Truck is Saturday, June 10th. Jessica Bravata has done an amazing job bringing that to the community on Furtaw Field. There's going to be over 35 truck exhibits, a lot of local volunteers. They're raising money for a great cause. So if you see it, share it on social media, tell your friends and neighbors. I did want to bring up about the FOIA that we talked about last time. Could we get a standard operating procedure written on that? Because we do automatically get a 10-day extension. And we've had multiple people that have brought it up, but yet the last meeting we had, the only thing that got brought up was the application, which the application didn't change, and that's on your website. So every time someone, and I haven't done one in a while, but maybe I will, you get an automatic 10-day extension, but it's not written anywhere. And then that fee schedule you talked about isn't written anywhere either. Like when I got mine, I think it was $45 or whatever. I didn't know like why exactly that number was determined. I know you told me the number of hours. I didn't really think the amount of redacting equaled out to that. I don't think it would have taken me that long, but that's your policy. But it would be nice if it was written somewhere if we're going to be paying money. And if you take checks or cash or credit cards or whatever, because I had asked that question too. But like, there should be a standard operating procedure. We have a procedural manual. So a lot of these challenges that we're having, you know, I think there could be a benefit if we streamlined some things and maybe took some responsibilities away from people where other people could fill in, or maybe streamline the amount of things that you're involved with, boards and all of that. I kind of like the buzzer better.
That was a weird buzzer.
Hello, Kathy Woosterbarth. I wanted to come and thank the board for their letter of support for the interim remedial actions that the NOW group is asking the Air Force to implement immediately. We really appreciate that letter. It's very impactful at the top of the Department of Defense where it will be looked at and used as a reason to implement these. So it's very, very important, and I thank you very much. I wanted to mention, I kind of wanted to mention the alternatives that Bob talked about. I'm not sure if this is the right place to do that, but I think we need to look back at those 2018 base team closure meeting minutes that talked about when the Air Force was going to choose whether they were going to use infiltration beds or this stormwater sewer. And even when they had started it, they were still talking about options. So I'm not sure if at this point, if that's still an option or not, and whether it would be effective, but maybe we need to, start that conversation with them. So maybe that's an option. And let's see. Oh, Tim mentioned I guess the interviews, right? The environmental cleanup, communication, and outreach initiative is what the Department of Defense is initiative that they're doing with multiple bases, or closed bases, or for the PFAS cleanup. So they recognize, as you can look at our RAB, how frustrated we get sometimes and all that. They want to make RABs more effective. So they're going around to different bases and asking stakeholders
like the state of Michigan, the, RAB members, all of that, questions about how they can be more effective. So that's a positive initiative. And then the next thing I wanted to mention is that we are going to be, graced by the presence of a very high-ranking Pentagon official. He is an Assistant Secretary of Defense that is under the Undersecretary, who's under the Secretary of Defense, for Energy, Installation, and Environment. His name is Brandon Owens, and he's coming here tomorrow to meet with the Air Force and to various stakeholders. So he's going to get a tour of the whole site, and then he's going to be sitting with, Tammy is going to be there, Mark Henry, myself, I'm not sure who else. But, yeah, we're going to have a frank conversation about what's going on here at Wordsmith, so that everybody in the Department of Defense can see us and hear us. So that's a very positive thing for our community. It's the highest ranking official that's come to Wordsmith for this issue. So we're really grateful that that's happening. And the last thing I have is the concerts on the beach are going to be starting through the Rotary. We host those. The first concert on the beach is going to be June 22nd, and then the last is August 17th. And those occur on the beach, at the beach park do we have a time? Oh my goodness, 7 o'clock is when they start, and they're every Thursday through the summer. So please come out to this really great event. We got some great bands, and it's a lot of fun. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Nobody over here. All right, that concludes our public comment. Board comment. Mr. Taser.
I'm just going to hit up on something I didn't say during the Planning Commission update. Zoning Board of Appeals training through Michigan Association of Planners will be on June the 15th. Board members and committee members interested in that, see Nicole for a sign up on that. And on June the 6th is Making Good Decisions Together, Michigan Association of Planners, again, here in Oscoda. This is for our boards, this is for our committees. This is starts at 2 o'clock, it's about a 2-hour program. I've taken it, Jamie McGuire has taken it, but I got to tell you, this is a very worthwhile. It's right here in Oscoda at the Warrior Pavilion on the 6th of June, Making Good Decisions Together. See Nicole for sign up. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Cummings.
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Spencer.
No, thank you.
Mr. Sutton.
Have a happy Memorial Day and a safe weekend, everybody.
Yes, I would concur with that. I'd also like to point out something. The township pays a good deal of money for insurance through the years. Of course, we have to insure our vehicles, we insure our buildings, we have liability on all those. One of the other things that we have insurance for is errors and omissions. That covers lawsuits that the township gets unfortunately entangled in sometimes. And the basis of that is we have to follow, we should follow our attorney's advice. When we get an opinion from our attorney, if we don't follow that opinion, that opens us up to having our insurance not cover us in a lawsuit. So when things are mentioned that we are taking action based on our attorney opinion, that's the reason why. If we don't follow our attorney's opinion and it ensues a lawsuit, it gives the insurance company an out to not cover our suit. And then it's on the taxpayers, the township, to cover that lawsuit. So I'm not sure that everybody's aware of that. So I just wanted to mention that's something that every board member has to be made aware of, that when our attorneys give us an opinion, we don't have to follow it, but if we don't, there can be severe circumstances that occur because of that. The other thing, there's under informational in here, there's a picture of the dock at Foot Site. They did a beautiful job of that, and what I would like to suggest is that we replicate that at Ratliff Park. I don't believe that dock has been, well, they put an extension on it a couple of years ago, but it needs to be a little longer. It needs to be, it's in bad shape. So as nice a job as they did at the one in Foot Site, if we could replicate something like that at Ratliff would be a big improvement.
Just so you know, those updates to that were done by Old Orchard Park staff.
Okay.
So I will encourage DPW to repeat.
Little competition?
Yeah. Yeah, hey, who could build the better dock?
Maybe they can get some guidance from Old Orchard Park on how to build a dock.
That's very enterprise fund.
Other than that, I don't have anything other than to wish everybody a happy Memorial Day weekend. And, oh, I'm sorry.
I have a message from the Township Treasurer. She would like everyone to know the utility billing ACH will not be going through tomorrow due to new software at our bank. They are currently working on the issue on their end, and we will be working with BSNA on our end. And those people who have automatic withdrawal for utility billing will not get penalties because it will not come out on time. So, just so everybody knows, that money that you thought was coming out hasn't come out yet, so don't spend it yet.
But you won't be penalized, right?
But you won't be
Right.
penalized.
Won't be a penalty.
No penalties for them.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Anything else, anybody? All right, then I will move to adjourn.